I don't talk about politics hardly ever on this show, but if you vote for me, I promise that none of my officials will throw a flag for holding unless it is clear and obvious.
You're tuned in to the Ross Tucker Football Podcast, guiding your gridiron journey, none other than your host, former NFL lineman Ross Tucker.
Oh, yeah, it is. But it's not just any Ross Tucker Football Podcast. It is a Monster Monday. We're presented by DraftKings. I'm Ross Tucker, former NFL offensive lineman, 5 teams, 7 years. Those of you that check us out, youtube.com/Ross Tucker NFL. You can see the helmets behind me, the game balls. No, more and more people watching the show on YouTube, which is great. That's awesome. You know, it's a little different. I got to make sure my hair doesn't look terrible, but that's fine. It's been fun to be on YouTube. Here's what we do on Mondays. I give you my overarching themes from the Sunday that was in the NFL. Then I give you the takeaways for each and every game. This time it was week 9 in the NFL. I'll give you my takeaways. Reminder, by the way, new week means new winners. We love all of you, but especially those of you that do any little extra thing to help grow the show or spread the word. Maybe it's via social media by engaging with @RossTuckerPod or @RossTuckerNFL on any platform, a like, a reply, a comment, a quote post. We are looking and checking all of it. And then the sponsor confirmation email winner. We've got awesome sponsors. Love WestShoreHome.com/Ross. And I think that deal might end as early as tomorrow, by the way. That crazy, amazing deal that they've had, WestShoreHome.com/Ross. Plus, we're in the holiday season, so future fans using the code Ross to get one of those incredible boxes for a family member. Highly recommend it. Anyway, we're going to get to it, man. Oh, you can also give us a YouTube shout out, youtube.com/Ross Tucker NFL. If you take advantage of a sponsor, I don't see it. So you got to forward me the email, ross@rosstucker.com, ross@rosstucker.com. It's Big Show time.
The Big Show.
All right, Ross, what were your overall themes from week 9 across the NFL?
Well, first, Jack, I should mention that the overarching themes are presented by Labatt. You guys know I love me some Labatt because that's how you live life to the power of we. Drink some Labatt Blue Lights, especially if you're celebrating your team's victory with your friends, and live life to the power of we. Always enjoy responsibly. Beer, Labatt USA, Buffalo, New York. All right, so I got several, I would say, Jack. I guess I'll start with some of the coaching decisions. It's interesting how some coaches are super aggressive and some are not. I thought that you could make a strong argument, especially the Patriots, but maybe the Dolphins as well, for going for 2 and the win late in those games. Now, I think if you listen to Steve Fezzik on the Even Money Betting podcast, I think he would say that that's not the case for the Dolphins because that was a tie game. So if you go ahead and you go for 2 and you don't get it, you're kind of done. You go for 2 and you do get it, well, then the Bills have 4 downs to make sure they get down into field goal range. So I can see why maybe the Dolphins didn't go for 2, but the Patriots, Gerard Mayo, really would have liked to have seen him go for 2 in the win there. You know, it felt like the Titans were kind of reeling after that miraculous play by Drake May. And then what happened? They end up losing the game. And yes, they got the ball back, but then May threw the pick. I just think that they should have strongly considered it. I guess another kind of theme, Jack, if we're talking about themes from the day, was ejections. There's not very many ejections in the NFL, but Brian Branch, safety for the Detroit Lions, terrific player, by the way, was ejected for a late hit to the head or neck area. I need to really look at it again super closely. I thought it deserved a penalty. I'm not sure I agree that it rose to the level of actually ejecting Branch from the game. And I know what the rules say about Puka Nakua, but we also saw like Trent Williams smoke a guy in the head recently, and he didn't get ejected. So I think what everybody's always looking for in those situations is consistency. I'll actually get to that momentarily. Then maybe the last thing I would say, Jack, that really jumped out to me, I don't remember another year where it feels like there's this much of a gulf between the good teams and the bad teams. And watching it, it felt like there was separation. It was separation Sunday, right? Like if you look, okay, teams are for the most part either good or bad. They're either contenders or they're not. There's not a lot of in between, like Atlanta and Dallas, okay? I think Falcons are legit. I think the Cowboys are kind of, I mean, I'm not saying they're done, but I don't think they're going to the playoffs. Baltimore showed they're the real deal. No, Denver's, I think, a mediocre team. But the Bills got separation from everybody else in the AFC and the Dolphins. Carolina and New Orleans are just two bad teams with 2 wins. Cincinnati showed they're actually going to be in this thing. The Raiders are not. Chargers showed they're going to be in this thing. The Browns are not. Commanders showed they're going to be in this thing. The Giants are not. Titans and Patriots are just 2 bad teams that both have 2 wins. Eagles are going to be in this thing. Jags, not so much. You know, I mean, that was kind of the theme. You know, I guess the Bears are still in the mix, even though they lost to the Cardinals, who are in the mix. Packers will still be in the mix. Seattle's still kind of in it. But it just feels like we have more teams with 2 wins or less, more teams that effectively seem like they're out of it pretty early. I mean, it's just week 10 this week, and they're already like that. The last theme, Jack, I'm just going to make it my Labatt take for the week now because I think it deserves it, and we might as well. Presented by Labatt Blue Light, the pristine Canadian Pilsner. Enjoy your beers together so you can live life to the power of we. Always enjoy responsibly. Beer. Labatt USA, Buffalo, New York. I don't talk about politics hardly ever on this show, but if you vote for me, I promise that none of my officials will throw a flag for holding unless it is clear and obvious. That is my number one platform. I mean, those 2 holds in the Bills game, what are we going? Number 2, I promise if you elect Ross Tucker, that anytime there's a play that we all see the refs were wrong, I will be the czar of instant replay, and I will overturn the call like the Saquon Barkley fumble where Miller for the Jags clearly hit him. I believe this is something that we can all get on board together. Vote Ross Tucker, President of the United States, in charge of NFL officiating. Hey, so this Smirnoff contest is ending soon. I've been telling you guys about it the last couple weeks. It's WeDoGameDays.com. It ends November 15th. They're giving fans in select areas of the country a chance to win the ultimate game day experience, tickets, sideline passes, much more. Please drink responsibly. Smirnoff number 21 vodka, distilled from grain, 40% alcohol by volume. The Smirnoff Company, New York, New York. Please not share with anyone under legal drinking age. No purchase necessary. 21 plus and 11/15/24. See rules at website for participating area and other important details. Sponsored by Diageo Americas Incorporated, New York, New York. Here's the deal. There's no I in football. It's a we thing. You experience it together. Good drinks, good folks. That's my friends at Smirnoff, the world's number 1 vodka, an official vodka partner of the NFL. WeDoGameDays.com. WeDoGameDays.com.
All right, Ross, we're gonna move to the games here. Dak Prescott, he left their game with an injury early. Seemed like it was a hand injury and also a hamstring injury. Anyways, Dallas, they fall at 3-6 with a 27-21 loss.
A lot of videos out there too about him on the sideline and lip readers trying to figure out exactly what it was that Dak was saying on the sideline. So the Cowboys are just in a really bad way. I mean, you think about this, okay? Think about before the game, Zeke Elliott is disciplined because he's skipping meetings. Who skips meetings? That's not even a thing in the NFL. Skipping meetings? I mean, and this guy's been around a long time. He's looking to get cut. Like he's looking. I would just keep fining him the max amount and suspending him the max amount and just take his money. Don't pay him the money. I mean, what are you skipping meetings? And then when you watch them during the game, you've got, I mean, they're trying to go for it on fourth down and they got 12 guys on the field. They have a fake punt where it's the punter throwing it to a guy. Remember, there's no such thing as pass interference on a fake punt. So the guy was covered perfectly. I mean, they can't convert third downs. You got Dak saying whatever he says on the sideline, and he's banged up, and CeeDee Lamb is banged up. And then after the game, Jerry Jones is saying, like, we're still in this, and quoting Michael Irvin from 30 years ago. Like, it is bizarro world in Dallas right now. I mean, really, truly, I don't understand what is going on with that franchise. Meanwhile, let's give some credit for the Falcons. You know, the Falcons are a legit team. Falcons clearly right now, the class of the NFC South, 6-3, like we thought they would be, like they probably would have been last year, to be honest with you, if they had a quarterback like Kirk Cousins. Although for them, Drake London and Grady Jarrett both got banged up. That's not good. Bijan Robinson, I love when they get him the ball, but I get it because Algier is a hammer. They got a good team, man. O-line, multiple receivers, tight end, multiple running backs. The defense is not great. The defense, and credit to the Falcons. I think they knew where they were at, Jack. So they were like, you know what? We got to get better. That's why they got Judon, Justin Simmons. They're still not that good. Thankfully for them, Caden Ellis was awesome, and the pass rush was better. But they still let Dallas run the ball very effectively.
You had your larceny lock right to begin on Friday. Baltimore, they steamrolled the Broncos in a 41-10 win.
Yeah, I did. I should have just left it with the Baltimore Ravens. Although the Eagles won too, but they were definitely not as much of a lock in hindsight as the Ravens. You know, it's funny because Lamar Jack took a bad sack on the first drive. The type of play that, for me as a former offensive lineman, is maddening. You're in field goal range, and he gets sacked out of field goal range. You cannot do that. Now, listen, it worked out. He played awesome the rest of the game. He had a perfect passer rating, so I think he did okay after that. But still, dude, those are the type of plays, just not smart, that are the difference between beating the Chiefs or whoever in the playoffs. The Broncos defense got absolutely shredded. That was really surprising. I was not expecting that. In fact, you know what? I'm going to do it right now, Jack. I never know for sure who I'm going to make my Campbell's offensive line of the week. I'm gonna make it the Ravens. Presented by Campbell's Chunky Soup. Soup that eats like a meal. The Broncos came in with one of the best defenses in the NFL. They were absolutely powerless to stop the Ravens. Lamar Jackson, perfect passer rating. Zay Flowers, huge day. Derrick Henry had 100th touchdown, over 100 yards. Everybody ate for the Ravens. If that's happening, the big guys up front are getting the job done. A lot of changes from last year to this year for the Ravens, but kudos to their offensive line and their offensive line coach, George Warhop, who stepped into a tough situation. The Ravens' big men are getting it done. Meanwhile, for the Broncos, I love the contested catch touchdown for Bo Nix. That was nuts for a fourth down play, but he just missed some plays that you can't. You know, like his guy from Oregon was wide open. Franklin for a touchdown. Just can't miss that. And the Broncos never really had a chance in this one.
Tyler Bass, he nailed it from 61 yards to secure a 30-27 win for the Bills over the Dolphins.
So this game was awesome. This was one of the games of the day. This was really a fun game because the Dolphins are pretty decent again. Now, Keon Coleman had a horrible interception down near the goal line that went right through his chest. That was a killer. Should have cost or could have cost the Bills the game. I already mentioned in my presidential candidacy the back-to-back horrible holding calls. I mean, the first one was a snatch trap by Dawkins. There's no holding whatsoever, and he does it like 5 to 10 times a game. The second one by Osiris Torrance, I didn't see it. Like I still am not sure. Like my only saving grace is maybe they called it on the wrong guy. I don't know. But how about, I'm so happy for Tyler Bass, Jack. You guys know how I feel about kicking, but the guy missed an extra point. It was a tie game. He missed an extra point, and he doinked another one in, but late, after Chop Robinson jumps off sides, after Jordan Poyer has an absolutely brainless, unnecessary roughness penalty. Like, Jordan, what are you doing? Bass hits a 61-yarder in Buffalo outside. So happy for that young man. You know, Tua was pretty good again, and the Dolphins still lost. So they need to come up with, it's almost like they need to come up with a new excuse now. Josh Allen, by the way, there's not a player I enjoy watching more in football. I mean, the touchdown to Mac Hollins, I think that was 4th down. The touchdown to Quentin Morris, the still shots of Josh getting blasted and his hands like over his head as the touchdown. I mean, it's just, he is must-see TV.
Things are not looking good for New Orleans. They've lost their 7th straight. They lose to the Panthers 23-22.
It's an ugly situation. It really is. Because, first of all, you have Chris Olave, carted off, scary, looked like another concussion. Secondly, I mean, Kamara's doing his part. You know, I wrote that article for the 33rd team. Hopefully you guys check it out about older running backs, the value they're providing. Kamara is like totally carrying the load, but it's still not enough. You know, for the Saints to lose this game with Derek Carr back, it's like kind of like the Dolphins. They don't have an excuse anymore of not having their starting quarterback. I thought it was, by the way, the best performance of the year for the Panthers defensively. Charles Harris and those guys. And then I actually think Bryce Young is showing some legit improvement. Canales said after the game he doesn't know he's going to start next week. Please start Bryce Young. I mean, he's showing some legit improvement, which I want to see if that can continue. For the Saints, a lot of changes after this year. I mean, maybe everybody's new. There's going to be a lot that they change.
Speaking of changes, Vegas, they had a lot of them following their loss to the Bengals 41-24.
Fired the OC Luke Getsy. Fired the O-line coach James Craig. Quarterback coach Rich Scarangello. Not a good look, by the way, for my former teammate Antonio Pierce. I mean, if you're firing the offensive coordinator you picked after 9 games, that doesn't look real good, right? I mean, that's the guy you picked. So that doesn't look good at all for Antonio Pierce. Meanwhile, how about the defense? You kind of gave up 41 points to the Bengals. Gesicki had a couple touchdowns. My boy, Yossi Vash, got in the end zone again for the Bengals. I loved it. Joe Burrow was incredible. 5 touchdowns. And Trey Hendrickson. It actually makes what Fred Johnson did to him the week before even more impressive that Trey Hendrickson was able to get a couple more sacks again.
The Chargers, they moved to 5-3 with a 27-10 win over the Browns.
Really disappointing loss by the Browns. Not that they lost, but just the way they lost. Kind of lifeless. You thought maybe after that Ravens win and the momentum, and you got Jameis now, that they would come flying out and say, okay, we can play. Nope. I mean, first of all, they didn't have JOK. Owusu Koroma was on IR. That's a big loss. But both of those long touchdown passes by Herbert were dropped coverages by the Browns. How does that happen? Dropped coverages. Meanwhile, Jameis Winston kind of throwing picks all over the place. Like, I mean, it was a Jameis Winston game. He's going to have the good, he's going to have the bad. You kind of know what he's going to get. And I thought J.K. Dobbins pretty effective. Workman-like, impressive road victory for the Chargers. Go, Chargers, go.
Washington, they avoid the trap game with a 27-22 win over the Giants on the road.
Really good point. this was a game. I'm surprised that they were able to rally after the Hail Maryland game because the Bears looked like they had a hangover after that game. The Commanders, no hangover, and they had no Brian Robinson. Didn't matter. You want to talk about value? I didn't even include him in my 33rd team article. I'm mad at myself now. Eckler. Eckler is making peanuts right now and providing a ton of value for the Commanders. Speaking of value, Deontay Banks for the Giants, that's another pick by Joe Shane that doesn't seem to be working out. McLaurin beat him for a couple touchdowns. Daniel Jones was running in the first half, not passing. Passing better in the second half. Too little, too late. Seems like we say that all the time about Daniel Jones and the Giants. Fowler had a big day on defense. That was a good signing for the Commanders for sure.
Tennessee, they pull off the win in overtime over the Patriots, 2017.
So, May had a couple turnovers that were killer in the game. I like watching him play though. There's a little bit of Josh Allen in his game when you watch him. He makes some big plays. He has some turnovers. That last play touchdown to Ramondre Stevenson was awesome. They should have gone for 2. I said earlier in the show, like go for 2 there, please, Gerard Mayo. You have 2 wins. Go for the win right then. You're on the road. Anyway, I think more coaches should do that. The Titans, they got their second win, and they kind of know who their guys are now, right? It's Calvin Ridley. It's Tony Pollard. Give them the ball. You have a chance to move the ball and win, and they did.
Chicago's season seems to be falling off at the hinges with a bad loss to the Cardinals, 29-9.
Well, the Cardinals got much more pressure in this game than they had all season. That's a bad look for the Bears. Zaven Collins, Xavier Thomas, they got some cool sounding edge rushers. Zaven Collins and Xavier Thomas. The DeMercado end of the first half touchdown run was absolutely backbreaking for the Bears. And the Bears they're falling behind, man, in the NFC North. They're falling way behind. Cardinals just kept running the rock, which I appreciate.
Philly, they hold on after a strong start, beating the Jags 28-23.
Well, there's a lot we could talk about in this game. Let's start with one of the craziest plays I've ever seen, and it's why I'm going to make him the 11 Oaks hungriest performance of the week. It's Saquon Barkley. Genuine Wagyu beef, Angus beef, heritage breed pork, free-range chicken, all locally raised. If you check my Facebook and Instagram, I post pictures and videos from my folks over at 11oaksfarms.com right here in Central PA. I've seen the cattle. I've seen the farm. 11oaksfarms.com. Order online. What an awesome holiday gift. 11oaksfarms.com. Get it before Thanksgiving. Saquon Barkley was incredible. He did it through the air with the touchdown catch. He did it on the ground multiple times, including the craziest move by a football player with the ball in their hands I've ever seen in my life, with the reverse jump over hurdle after the spin, whatever we are calling it. And he had some really nice blocks too that people didn't see. As for the rest of the game, man, the Eagles' aggressiveness almost cost them. Kudos to the Jags for the comeback. The 3rd and 17 touchdown on the draw for Saquon was a killer, absolutely killer for the Jags. So was the ETN drop that led to the ball and interception, the special teams fumble. The Jags really were right there, could have won that game.
Detroit ruins our game of the week with a dominant showing, beating the Packers 24-14.
Kirby Joseph, another interception. This one a pick 6 as the Lions totally dominated the second and third quarters of this game. Jared Goff, it wasn't like huge numbers, but his stats remain stupid, like stupid good, with more touchdowns and incompletions. Jordan Love was just kind of a little bit off, I would say. Lions took care of business, like I said, in the middle quarters, and that was their first outdoor game. Not just outdoor game, it's like pouring the whole game, and they still win.
Geno Smith's 3 interceptions lead to a tough loss to the Rams in OT, 26-20.
That's tough, man. That's a game if you're Seattle. if they're in this thing till the end, and I think they might be, that's the game they'll point to. I mean, 103-yard pick six. You're down in the red zone again. You have another interception. Then even in overtime, they got stuffed on 4th and 1. I will say I love that Geno keeps firing. The touchdown pass to JSN was awesome, but ultimately not enough. Jared Verse, by the way, for the Rams, that guy is a dude already. I mean, that was a really good draft pick.
The Vikings, they pull off the win against the Colts despite some costly mistakes, 21-13.
Yeah, I mean, very costly mistakes. You think about early in the game where Grover Stewart knocks the ball away from Darnold, Colts returner for a touchdown. You think they're in business. And by the way, the Colts moved the ball on their first drive. You know, the fumble on the exchange from Flacco to Taylor was just huge. Justin Jefferson, that's his brother, had a huge day as usual. I mean, the Vikings even had their kicker miss a couple field goals. I guess he might have an injury or something, and they still ended up winning the game. Not a good look for the Colts to lose that game in the fashion that they did. I think we're done here.
Thanks for tuning in to the Ross Tucker Football Podcast. Make sure to also check out Even Money, Fantasy Feast, and College Draft, all on the DraftKings Network, YouTube, or subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platform.
Shout out myfrontpagestory.com. My offer stands. If you go ahead and make an order for a loved one of a cover newspaper style story all about how amazing they are, I will send you a signed autograph in the mail. Myfrontpagestory.com. But you got to let me know, ross@rosstucker.com. Backofficescheduler.com, humanheadnyc.com, Sporticulture, Pizza Boy Brewing.